Welcome back to Real Insight Tales, the home of emotional short stories, life-changing lessons, and powerful true-to-life narratives. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what we have in store. Today's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest gifts come in the smallest packages, and they can change everything. Let's dive in. The old grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 7 times. 7 o'clock. And still, no sign of him. Lily sat on the top step of the stairs, her chin resting on her knees. Her brand new sparkly dress felt less sparkly now. Her party hat, a cone of bright pink cardboard, sat limply on her head. Downstairs, the living room was a sea of deflated balloons and half-eaten cake. Her friends had gone home hours ago, their parents collecting them with sympathetic smiles. But Lily's dad, Mark, was still not here. Today was her 7th birthday. She had circled the date on her calendar with a red crayon months ago. She'd planned everything: the unicorn theme, the rainbow cake, the games. Most importantly, she'd imagined her dad's face when he saw it all. He had promised. "I'll be there, sweetie," he'd said, ruffling her hair that morning before rushing out the door, his phone already pressed to his ear. Wouldn't miss it for the world. But he was missing it. The world, it seemed, was a series of urgent emails and conference calls that always took priority. Lily's mom, Sarah, had tried her best. She'd managed the party, cut the cake, and handed out the goodie bags with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Now, she was quietly clearing the plates in the kitchen, the clinking of dishes the only sound in the house besides the ticking clock. Lily pulled a small, slightly crumpled drawing from the pocket of her dress. It was a picture of her and her dad holding hands under a giant, smiling sun. She had drawn it for him, her best work yet. She'd planned to give it to him the moment he walked through the door. Now, she just stared at it, a lump forming in her throat. Finally, at 9 o'clock, the front door clicked open. Mark stumbled in, looking exhausted. He loosened his tie, dropping his briefcase with a heavy thud. He looked up and saw Lily on the stairs. A flash of confusion crossed his face, then dawning horror. "Oh, Lily, honey. The party." He ran a hand through his hair. "I am so sorry. There was a crisis at work, a deadline moved up. I completely lost track of time." Lily didn't say anything. She just watched him, her big, hopeful eyes now looking small and tired. Sarah came out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Her expression was weary. "Mark," she said softly. "We talked about this." I know, he said, his voice full of regret. "I'll make it up to her. I promise. We'll do something huge this weekend. Whatever you want, sweetie. A trip to the amusement park? A new bike?" But Lily shook her head. She slowly stood up, walked down the stairs, and went to his briefcase. She didn't look at him. She simply unzipped the front pocket and carefully placed her drawing inside. Then, she zipped it back up and walked past him, heading to her room without a word. The silence she left behind was louder than any argument. The next morning, Mark was in a frenzy. The big project was due, and he was running on fumes. He grabbed his briefcase, kissed a sleeping Lily on the forehead, and rushed out. At the office, he dove straight into work, fueled by coffee and adrenaline. It wasn't until lunchtime that he finally had a moment to breathe. He reached into his briefcase for a protein bar, and his fingers brushed against a piece of paper. He pulled it out. It was Lily's drawing. He stared at the two stick figures holding hands under the smiling sun. He saw the care she'd taken, the way she'd drawn his tie and her own sparkly dress. And then he noticed something else. Tucked behind the drawing was another piece of paper. It was an invoice. Not a real one, but one Lily had created herself on a piece of lined paper, written in careful, childish handwriting. It read, "Invoice from my dad." Below, she had listed a series of items. For one bedtime story, $10. For one piggyback ride, $15. For one game of hide and seek, $20. For being there on my birthday, priceless. Mark's breath hitched. He read the list again and again. Priceless. The word slammed into him with the force of a physical blow. He looked around his sterile, empty office, at the charts and graphs on his screen, at the mountain of paperwork that represented his life's work. And for the first time, he saw it all for what it was, just stuff. It wasn't life. His heart pounded in his chest. He suddenly felt a desperate, overwhelming need to get out of there. He stood up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. He didn't log off his computer. He didn't say goodbye to his colleagues. He grabbed his keys, sprinted to his car, and drove. He wasn't just driving home, he was driving away from the man he had become. When he burst through the front door, Sarah and Lily were in the living room building a pillow fort. They looked up, startled. Mark was breathless, his tie askew, his eyes wild. He dropped to his knees in front of Lily. "I'm paying my bill," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He pulled out his wallet, but then pushed it aside. "No," he said, shaking his head. "Money can't pay for this." He took a deep breath. "Lily," he began, his voice trembling, "I have a new invoice for you." He paused, looking directly into her curious eyes. "For 1,000 piggyback rides. A lifetime supply of bedtime stories. And for every single birthday, from now until you're 107. I will be there. That's my promise. And this time, it's priceless." Lily's face, which had been so solemn, slowly broke into a radiant smile. She threw her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. "I love you, Daddy," she whispered. Mark held her tight, the feel of her small arms around him grounding him in a way no business deal ever could. He looked over her shoulder at Sarah, who was watching them with tears in her eyes. In that moment, surrounded by pillows and the quiet love of his family, Mark finally understood. Success wasn't about deadlines or promotions. It was about being present for the priceless moments you can never get back. He had almost lost sight of that, but his 7-year-old daughter, with a simple, powerful drawing, had brought it all back into focus. She hadn't just given him an invoice, she had given him back his life. What a powerful reminder of what truly matters in life. Sometimes, it takes the innocent wisdom of a child to show us the path back to ourselves. Thank you for joining us on Real Insight Tales. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and move you. We'll see you in the next one.